friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Emily, one of our generous donors and partners in this mission to try and create a healing space for parents of teens and young adults, a place where we can find connection, clarity, and strength, even in the most challenging seasons. Thank you so much, Emily, for your support. If you're interested in sponsoring a future episode, stay tuned. I'll share how you can get involved at the end of today's show. If you're here with me today, it's probably because you are, like me, a parent walking through the messy middle of raising older kids. Doing your very best, I'm sure, to try to figure out how to navigate this phase. And let me be real with you. There are days when it feels like I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing. I mean, one day I start to feel like I'm finding a rhythm. I may actually even have my feet under me. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, everything changes. And once again, I feel like I'm stumbling through these things I never thought I'd have to learn. Things like how to talk to my teens about sex in today's culture, pornography, even puberty, or talking to my adult children about substance use, toxic relationships, or their own wrestlings with faith. I don't know about you, but sometimes, y'all, I'm just exhausted by it all. And in those moments, I have to really fight the temptation to just give in. Do you ever feel that way? Like sometimes you don't have it in you to fight one more battle. And you're almost willing to just let the chips fall and let it be whatever it's going to be. It's funny how those moments always seem to translate in my mind to moments of weakness, like taking the easy way out. Maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but the further I get into this journey, there are two things that I'm sure of. One, it's normal for us as parents to have these moments. I think that we can all agree that playing the long game in parenting is pretty taxing. And two, it doesn't mean we're failing. So that's what I thought we'd talk about today. What's behind this shift we sometimes make into soft serve parenting, and how do we show up with love while standing firm on our values as parents, even when our kids push back? I came across the term soft serve parenting online, and it really made me stop and think. It was used to describe these moments when we tend to take the easy route with our kids. Times when we cave while deep down we know we probably need to hold our ground. It could also be times when we avoid hard conversations or we let go of boundaries, not because we don't care, but because we're afraid or we feel guilty or we simply just want to keep the peace. And even though it might come from a good place, like wanting our kids to feel loved or not wanting to create additional distance between us, in the long run, it doesn't really help either of us. Like soft serve ice cream, it feels sweet and smooth in the moment, but it lacks the structure and substance that our kids need to grow into strong, secure, responsible adults. I once heard it said that parenting is hard because it's about raising someone else while still growing yourself. And I think that might be one of the most overlooked facts about parenting out there. We carry the expectation that as adults, we should have it all figured out by now. But when we stumble, we often extend ourselves no grace. We criticize every misstep and beat ourselves up for not responding perfectly to the challenges that we face with our kids. If we lose our patience and in the process yell or say something unkind, we kick ourselves for being mean. If we give in to what our child is pushing for, like, the cell phone, the loan, the car, that expensive pair of shoes, whatever it might be, simply because we don't have it in us to go to the mat and wrestle it out, we berate ourselves for being weak. We demand perfection from ourselves. It doesn't matter if it's realistic or not. We expect it. We set the bar so unbelievably high that even Mother Teresa couldn't reach it. Now, for kicks and giggles, I thought maybe we can have a little fun with this for a minute. So I asked ChatGPT to generate a ridiculous, impossible to achieve image of a parent who handles every situation perfectly. And here's what it said. It said, imagine a parent who always wakes up fully rested, ready to deliver just the right nugget of wisdom before their teenager even opens an eye. A parent who speaks every word calmly, never letting sarcasm or frustration slip out, even when the car comes home at 2 a.m. with an empty tank and fast food wrappers falling out the door. A parent who knows exactly when to text and when to stay silent, and their teen always replies immediately with gratitude and emojis. Someone who can magically sense when their teen is lying, hurting, or hiding something and gently draws it out with one perfectly worded question. A parent who balances work, family, self care, and prayer time while also still knowing the slang, understanding TikTok trends, and remembering where everyone left their chargers. Someone who never feels frustration, exhaustion, doubt, or fear. Just endless streams of patience, love, and confidence that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. She can cook a delicious, nutritiously balanced meal that all of her kids will eat, fold laundry into origami swans, help with algebra, and lead a family devotional all simultaneously while looking cute and put together. A parent whose teen or young adult child is always saying, "Thanks for always being there for me, Mom. You're absolutely right about everything." It wraps up by saying, if this sounds like you, congratulations, you're fictional. The rest of us are just learning as we go, stumbling through conversations and praying our way through the mess. And guess what? That's okay. Reading through that list and hearing it out loud is funny. What's not funny is that inside our heads, we believe some version of those things should actually be true. We forget that we too are still growing ourselves. From someone who has raised 6 kids, I can tell you that I was not the same mom to my first child as I am to my sixth. 100 things have changed about me. Through mistakes and missteps, I've learned that my parenting is less about my kids and their lives and more about my own life journey, my own growth, and my own healing. Have you ever heard of the term molting? Molting is a natural process that an animal like a bird or a snake or even an insect goes through where it sheds its old feathers, skin, or shell in an effort to make room for new growth. It happens when the outer layer starts to become worn or damaged and sometimes even too small to accommodate the animal as it's maturing. For birds, molting means dropping old, frayed feathers and growing fresh, strong ones that will carry them through the next season. For snakes, it's shedding a tight, dead layer of skin that no longer fits in order to reveal the smooth, healthy skin underneath. And for insects, it might be crawling out of a smaller, hard shell in order to step into a bigger, freer one. The interesting thing about molting is that for a while, it leaves the animal vulnerable. They're exposed and tender, not quite ready to fly, slither, or scurry at full strength. But for them, it's a vital, necessary part of becoming what they're meant to be next. Parenting at its best is a process of molting too. We learn to shed away the old ways of responding that no longer serve us or our kids. Every mistake, every moment when we see ourselves reacting out of fear, anger, or old wounds becomes this invitation to let go of what's broken so that we can grow into something healthier and more whole. We forget that some of the ways we parent come from unhealed parts of ourselves. They could be patterns that we picked up as children, things we swore we'd never do, but somehow still find ourselves repeating. Other times, our responses come from fear of failing, fear of losing our kids, fear of not being enough. Over time, though, we see the impact of those choices. We start to feel the discomfort, like skin that's too tight or feathers that are worn and heavy, and we realize this doesn't fit anymore. So we molt. We shed the sarcasm that we use to protect ourselves. We learn to identify and release the control that's been disguising itself as love. We peel away the need for perfection from them and ourselves. We strive to release the yelling, the people pleasing, the silent treatment, all the things we've carried from our own pain, and we allow ourselves to grow softer, stronger, and freer. It's not easy because molting always leaves us a little raw at first. But in that shedding, friend, we make space for a new way of showing up, a growing into a version of ourselves that is less rooted in hurt and more in healing, less filled with fear and more with love. A few months back, I had this nagging feeling that I needed to have a heart to heart with one of my kids. He had been making a series of what I felt like were bad choices. One bad decision seemed to lead to another and then another, and I knew that as his mama, God wanted me to speak a little wisdom into his life. Part of me, the part that hates conflict, argued that technically he's an adult, so maybe I should just leave it be and let him figure it out. But no matter how much time passed, I did not feel peaceful about that. I knew deep down I needed to have that conversation, but no part of me wanted to do it. You know what I mean? I know you do. And you might also know that when you're a praying mama, the Lord does not let you off the hook so easily. I kept feeling it on my heart to have that conversation, but I was scared. Scared of what? I thought to myself. Good question, something inside me whispered. Now we're getting somewhere. One thing I'm learning is that fear and anxiety are my heart's way of telling me that it has something it wants me to hear. And so I knew that before I could even think about having a heart to heart conversation with him, I had to have one with myself. The first thing that I connected with was that I was afraid of what his response to the conversation would be. So, would he get defensive? Would he get angry? Or even worse, would he feel judged or rejected? I knew I didn't want any of those things, and I was scared that broaching the subject with him might lead us directly to all of those feelings and more. The more I thought about it and listened to what my heart was saying, the more I realized that I wasn't just afraid of his reaction, I was afraid of not being in control. Not only did I not have control over how he might take what I said, aka what message he would hear, I was afraid that once I ventured into having that conversation, I would have to come to terms with the fact that I also have no control over whether or not it would actually make a difference. And that opens up a whole new can of worms. See, it's one thing to attempt to try and take control of a situation by having a conversation with someone that we love. And it's another thing entirely to have said what needs to be said in love and then to allow the person the freedom to choose their own path. As hard as that conversation was going to be, releasing the matter with the same love and respect was going to be even harder. Here's the kicker. The real reason I wasn't having that conversation with him was because I was too afraid to confront those underlying fears. I was running from the truth. What truth? The truth that control and love can't coexist. I know that that can feel like a hard truth to swallow. It certainly was for me, because deep down, I want to believe that if I just hold on tightly enough, I can protect my kids from mistakes, pain, or choices that I don't agree with. But the more I grip the less my love feels like love, and the more it starts to feel like control. See, the entire time I was wrestling with my son's decisions and what I should say and how I would say it and what the heck is he even doing, my heart was never in a posture of love. It was aggravated, frustrated, disappointed, judgmental. I vented about him to my husband, lamented over when he would change, and although it was not intentional, I distanced myself from him. I avoided reaching out because I knew I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I avoided reaching out because I didn't know how to connect with him when his choices weren't lining up with my expectations. And nothing hurts my heart worse than hearing those words out loud. Control and love can't coexist. When we try to control someone, even with good intentions, it often damages trust and connection. Love respects the other person's autonomy, no matter how hard that is to do, even when their choices scare us or hurt us. Love honors their dignity. Love allows someone to choose their own path. It communicates, I see you as capable, and I trust you to figure this out, even if you stumble. And that's a gift, even when it's hard to give. Soft serve parenting is rooted in control. We try so hard to hold on to the idea that we can fix it all, that we can control their outcomes and protect them from everything. But that's not our job. Our job is to love. But how do we get there? How do we fight the Goliath of fear in our lives? Well, that's where faith comes in. I used to shy away from talking about faith because we live in a culture where faith is often seen as personal and something not entirely appropriate to talk about on public platforms, particularly if you're a follower of Jesus. I worried that bringing up faith would spark an argument, might create distance, or make some of my listeners feel judged. I also worried about seeming pushy or preachy, and I wasn't sure how to talk about faith while also respecting your freedom to choose and without coming across as overbearing. Over the past few years, I've found it harder and harder to share my journey as a parent and as a person without sharing my faith. See, for a long time, I struggled with whether sharing about it openly might be hard for some of you to hear. I know some of us have been hurt by faith conversations before, either as the one being spoken to or as the one doing the speaking. And I never want to be another voice that adds to that hurt or shame. But over time, it began to feel like I was holding back the very thing that has sustained me in the hardest moments. And that broke my heart. If you're new to faith, I hope you'll continue to give this space and these conversations a chance. No one here will ever judge you or condemn you. What you'll find here is what God has given me: grace and unconditional love, freely offered. The truth is, I've prayed for each of you since the very beginning. Before every episode, I pray over what I'm going to share. I ask God to show me what you might need to hear. I pray for wisdom, humility, discernment. I ask Him to help me be open, vulnerable, and real, because I know how much we all need to feel that we're not alone. Parenting is messy, and no one understands that better than the Father who walks with us through it all. So this week, as we close, I'd like to pray over both of us. It might feel awkward if you aren't used to receiving prayer, but all you need to do is sit back, take a deep breath, and just open your heart to receive. Father, you know how hard this can feel sometimes. When our kids are pushing back or walking a path that feels scary to us, it's so easy for us to slip into fear, to start fixing and trying to control what isn't even ours to carry. Would you help us trust you more in those moments? Remind us that you really are in control, that you're guiding both of us, even when we can't see what you're doing. Give us the courage to say what needs to be said, and also the wisdom to step back and let them make their own choices when it's time. I know you don't expect us to have all the answers. Help us just keep showing up, present, loving, and leaning on you, and to believe that that really is enough when we're rooted in your love. And Father, I also just want to pray for every mama listening today, especially the ones carrying it all on their own. You see her, Lord. You see the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet tears she hides, and the fierce love that she pours out day after day. Would you give her strength when she's worn so thin that she doesn't know how she'll keep going? On the days that she feels invisible, would you whisper to her heart that you see her? And when she wonders if she's doing enough, would you please remind her that her love and her presence are what matter most? Father, I just pray that you would bring people around her, God, kind, safe people who will hold space for her without judging her, who will encourage her without expecting anything in return, who will remind her of her worth when she forgets. Would you give her opportunities to be that same kind of person to someone else? But most of all, Lord, just be close in the quiet, in the chaos, in the mess. Remind her she's not alone. Wrap her up in your grace. Carry what she can't. Bless her kids through the love that she gives them every single day. We love you, Father. Thank you for loving us first. Amen. Sis, as we wrap up today, I just want to remind you, this journey that we're on is not about being perfect, and it's not about getting it right every time. We all have moments where we slip into soft serve parenting, where fear, guilt, or exhaustion make us want to play the short game. But every day we have a new opportunity to choose differently, to let go of the patterns that no longer serve us, the ones that are rooted in our wounds or our fears, and to show up for our kids with both love and strength. This week, let's focus on being steady and tender, to say the hard things with love, to hold the boundaries, and to trust that God's got the parts we can't control. And when you feel that pull to give in, just to keep the peace, pause, breathe, and remember that you can love them deeply without losing yourself. I'm so glad to be on this journey with you. Now for the fun part. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, comments, or maybe even just something you're struggling with that you want to hear more about, shoot me an email at parentingthroughthehard@gmail.com. It's so easy for us to forget that our thoughts, our experiences, and even our struggles can be the very thing that helps someone else begin to heal. If you want to be part of what we're doing, you can sponsor an episode by making a donation of any size, big or small. Every gift goes straight to covering the cost of production, and you can find the link to donate in the show notes. It's an honor, friend, to walk with you on your journey and to have you beside me on mine. I'm so grateful you're here with me as we learn how to show up for ourselves, for our kids, even when they're grown, and for the quiet, courageous work of healing, even when it's hard. Until next time, let's stay grounded in what truly matters. Keep taking steps forward, and remember, we're allowed to stumble, learn, and give ourselves grace as we move through the hard parts of this journey. You're doing better than you think, friend.